We are Canadians, we are free, and we're going to be fearless, and we'll have no more lockdowns. No more lockdowns. No more lockdowns. No more lockdowns. Can you hear me? I'm suffering a little bit of laryngitis. Been yakking a little bit more than usual lately, so I'm gonna keep a little tempered today. But you know, I've been out here, and I want to say thank you to everybody for being here. But there's just something that has really caught my eye today, and I wanted to share that with you. And if you look directly over here where these fellas are standing with their flags and stuff on top of the rocks, if you look really closely, down in the grass, there's a goose on her nest. She's protecting her young. There's a bunch of big, scary things all around it. Big, scary things. But that goose is not fearful of any of them. That goose is taking care of things. And I guess, of course, the Canada goose is a symbol of Canada. And we're not fearful of anything. We're not fearful. We'll defend what is important for us to defend. And how metaphorical and perfect. Seeing a Canada goose, knowing it's not the government who's going to take care of those little ducklings or goslings, it's going to be them. It's going to be her. And listen, I met many people this morning, and I do want to draw attention to a couple people before I speak about. I met Felix and Reza. They're here today. They came to Canada from the former Soviet Union. They know what this is all about, right? There's many people that know what's going on. And we're fortunate in Canada to have people like Felix and Reza here to help us understand the danger that we're facing. And somebody else mentioned, and I think this is true, they talked about their mom and dad who lived through the war and came to Canada, but they weren't with us anymore, wasn't with the family anymore, and how disturbed their mother and father would be to see what has happened to Canada. And it dawned on me that this could never have happened if our moms and dads were still with us. It could never have happened if my mom and dad and our moms and dads. This is something that's happened to us, and it's not good. But I also wanted to talk about. There's one other lady in the audience today, and I want to share this little story. Her name is Jeanette. I'll only use her first name, but I'm sure she wouldn't mind if I used her last name. But a few months ago, Jeanette had contacted me at my office in Perth. And I guess it was last summer or last fall. It's really hard to keep track of days and whatnot these days. But anyway, Jeanette said to me that she said, it would be really good if we had signs that we could put out in our yard and tell government and tell our neighbors that no more lockdowns is what we want. So you never know what happens when you call an elected representative. Sometimes a great idea gets delivered, gets implemented. So thank you, Jeanette, for being here today and for having that idea. Listen, could I also ask Pastor Henry to come back up for one moment? Because there's something that he mentioned that I think I'd like to just share the stage with a man of faith, and I'll tell you, it is an honor for me to be standing with Pastor Henry. But what's happening in Edmonton is it's hard to find a word to describe that first a pastor could be incarcerated for offending a provincial regulation that doesn't even have a penalty for incarceration. And then to have a Church of God seized from the church, because that's what it's done. They've not just put fences around and placed security guards. This is they've seized a house of God. Right. And I've got a word to say to Mr. Trudeau, and I'd like Henry to join with me. Yes. Mr. Trudeau, tear down that bloody fence.
Yes, sir.
Tear down that fence.
Yes, sir. Now.
Premier Kenny, tear down that fence.
Tear it down.
Tear down that fence.
That's right.
Tear down the fence. 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 And for those people in Alberta, head to Grace Life Church. Yeah. Tell Premier Kenny, tell Prime Minister Trudeau the same thing. Tear down this fence. Tear down this fence. Canada is founded on the supremacy, on the knowledge and the understanding that there is a supremacy of God. And how can that be? How can that be that we're founded on the supremacy of God and government seizes a house of God? Well, that is one of the problems. That is a great problem. Listen, we know the facts and the evidence are clear that this virus is not a threat. It's not a threat to most people. It's not a threat to healthy people. It's not a threat to young people. Even those ones who aren't that young or yet not that healthy, like myself. I've been traveling around this province for the last year, greeting and having the joy and the pleasure and the rewards of meeting so many people on a beautiful day and seeing smiling faces and having people at my house and being human. Well, I don't know anybody that's gotten sick with COVID. I don't. No. But we also know that the data is clear. You know, over 96% of people who have died with COVID are seniors with significant underlying illnesses and comorbidities. That's who's at risk. That's who's at risk. And I think we can all say, you know, when we look at the average age of the fatalities with COVID, and here in Canada it's 84, and we know that our life expectancy is 82, well, I can do math. I don't need to be an expert to know how to add and to understand numbers. When you're 84 and you're sick and you're frail and you have significant illnesses, sometimes it doesn't take much to end your life. Sometimes it's just a feather and a cold. And we understand that as rational human beings, you know. So I just put that's the facts and the data, but all our actions apparently for COVID, have been targeted at our children, scaring them, making our children live in fear and terror that they may bring something home and that they're a threat and they may kill their siblings and their moms and dads and their grandparents. And this is terrible what we're doing to our children, that we're describing them as vectors of disease and dangers, and like that's cruel. That's cruel to do that to children. And and we're doing it to our small businesses. We're destroying their livelihoods. We're destroying their lives of productive, honest, hard-working Canadians. We're saying we're going to destroy your livelihood. You're going to have to become dependent on the CERB. You're going to have to become dependent on government. And that's wrong. That doesn't do anything to help the frail and the ill and the elderly in our long-term care. Destroying the lives of Canadians is not a solution. Not a solution. It is the problem that they're creating. And well, I'm going to say, we've, for the last year, we can understand what's going on. We can understand this has been a political crisis for over a year. This is not a health crisis. Not a health crisis. It never has been. Maybe if I'm going to be charitable and somewhat diplomatic, and I would say, but maybe for the first 2 weeks when there was a great deal of uncertainty and a great deal of manipulation and a great deal of misinformation, maybe it was a health crisis. But I don't think so. This has always been a political crisis. And Doug Ford and Justin Trudeau and everybody else, and every other elected member who isn't speaking up, because they know, or many of them know what's going on.
Puppets!
What they don't have is an exit strategy. They don't know how to get out of this. They have created a mob mentality in Canada, a mob of fear and terror and danger, and they don't know how to do it. And that's what we're actually doing. We're giving government an exit strategy. We're showing them that Canadians are free, that Canadians demand to be free, that we're free and we're not fearful. We're like that Ken the Goose up there. We're not going to be feared. And that's what we have to keep doing, and I believe that the dam is breaking. We're seeing great actions down in Leamington last week. Grant was down there. The Family Diner restaurant opened up, said, we're disobeying this unjust and unlawful and unconstitutional law. And we had thousands of people out in Leamington, and they, what happened? Well, nothing. People lived their lives.
Yeah.
People bought bacon and eggs from the diner. And the police did nothing. Because there's some police, most police, understand you don't mess with Canadians who are demanding and asserting their freedoms. But we're seeing rallies and reopenings and the resistance and the disobedience to these unlawful laws everywhere. In Leamington, in Chatham, here in Simcoe today, up in Kemptville yesterday, in Ottawa. More and more people are waking up.
Yes.
And we can't expect everybody to wake up at the same time. You guys are the early birds. But we're going to keep waking those people up.
Even we're late.
We're going to keep shaking them. We're going to keep shaking them with knowledge, with information. And we're going to keep shaking them with courage that we're free Canadians. Listen, you know, and I'll just, this event that happened in Kemptville the other night. You know, we had about 400 or 500 people out there enjoying a beautiful spring evening on a patio at the South Branch Bistro in Kemptville. And the police and the public health showed up. And I don't know if anybody's seen the video.
Yes!
Oh, yeah. Freedom!
But these public health, they're all on overtime, eh? Just the paramedics that were there were on overtime, the public health nurses and inspectors were there on overtime, and they had their mask on, and then they had their face shield on, and they're in a sea of freedom, right? And the police, I was sort of disappointed with those two police officers. You know, we were being very respectful, very nice, and they thought that they could just do what they wanted to do. And they could come in and they could intimidate people.
Not happening!
And coerce people into running away from that badge of authority. And when they told me if I understood the Reopening Ontario Act, of course I told them I also understand the Constitution. And we understood and we told them that there would be no more lockdowns. No more lockdowns, and that there was only going to be freedom here tonight.
No more lockdowns!
Well, they weren't like that Canada Goose up there. They tucked tail and they ran away. Right? And that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to, for those police officers who don't, unlike Vince Gersies and unlike Police on Guard for Thee, and for those police officers who don't understand their duty and their responsibility to us to protect our freedoms, we're going to have to remind them.
Honor your oath!
We're going to have to remind them often,
Honor your oath!
frequently. And I'm going to say, it doesn't take too long for them to get the message. Doesn't take too long at all. So listen, I do want to, my truck is parked over here. I've got a bunch of signs. I think some people have gotten them. I do encourage to join nomorlockdowns.ca, to get involved with these local chapters and to do the work here. You know, this is not about going to Toronto to win this battle. We have to win this battle here at our hometowns, in our backyards. That's where the battle is. And we have to be outspoken, and we have to be fearless in defending ourselves and our families. And so join No More Lockdowns. Join the local chapters. Put a sign on your yard. The sign tells everybody, it tells every one of your neighbors, I'm not living in fear anymore. I'm not living in fear anymore. And we're delivering postcards to help inform and to help wake up those other people who are still hibernating, who are still in the slumber, or still in the state of fear. We need to keep doing more with that. And we're putting up billboards like we did in Brantford last week. The biggest billboard in Brantford. And we're putting up billboards in Pembroke next week. And we're putting up billboards everywhere. And we're going to show Doug Ford and Toby Barrett and Will Bowman, and we're going to show our local mayors, we're going to show everybody that Canadians are free, and freedom is our nationality. If we're not free, we are not Canadians. We're something else, but we're not Canadians if we're not free. But I do want to say, there is this virus. This is a struggle within ourselves. It's a struggle, it is a war against our freedoms and our responsibilities. It's against our freedoms and responsibilities that are derived from our faith in God. That's where our faith, that's where our freedoms and our responsibilities come from. They're not for governments to take away. We can only give freedom away. It can't be taken from us. And it can only be taken away from you if you don't have faith in God, confidence and trust in yourself, in your fellow man and woman. That's who we need to have trust and confidence in. Not Doug Ford, not Justin Trudeau.
Fire Ford!
Have confidence in your community.
Fire Ford!
And understand that back to that Constitution, it is our faith that has made this country great. It is our faith that has made us successful. It is our faith that has made us prosperous. And it is our faith that keeps us all safe, not government. Thank you very much. Join up, no more lockdowns. Tell everybody, we are Canadians, we are free, and we're going to be fearless, and we'll have no more lockdowns. No more lockdowns.